What if we never stop learning? Seneca said there's no one more foolish than the one who stops learning. I remember a couple of decades ago, after I'd gone through my divorce, I was approaching 30, and I realized I could be or do anything that I wanted to be or do. At that time, MBAs meant something, and they were popular, and so I was researching that, read a bunch of books on whether or not I wanted to do that. Ultimately decided not to go after the MBA program, and I'm glad I didn't. But I read every book I could get my hands on around personal finance, growth, psychology, read the Bible cover to cover, read like 60 books, and all that was good. Read all the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series. It was all good. But then I had a boss that cared enough about me. I was at Shell at the time, and I liked this guy. I trusted him. I cared for him, and vice versa. And he asked me not once, not twice, but 3 times to go on a men's weekend. And the truth is, I didn't want to go. Why do I need a men's weekend? Sounds dumb. But I also didn't know how to tell him no. And so ultimately, after the 3rd time that he asked me, I said, okay. I figured, what do I have to lose? He's my boss. Frankly, I didn't know how to say no to my boss. So I said yes. And I got to tell you, that crazy men's weekend back in January 2007, it changed my life. Those men, I had no idea how they knew to do what they did, but they brought me deeper than I thought I could ever go. They showed me things about myself that I had no clue was even in there. Who I was, how I got to where I was, perhaps. They blew me away. Got in touch with my little boy, my core wound, my needs. I found mission and vision, passion and purpose, connection, clarity. With connection, clarity comes confidence, by the way. All in one weekend. With a whole lot of strangers and a whole lot of crazy stuff going on around me. It was beautiful. It was powerful. And what I realized, especially as I reflect back, is like, man, all those books were good. Reading the Bible was great. But I learned more from that weekend experience, from one weekend, than I did with all that other stuff combined. And what I realized from that weekend and looking back on that experience and other experiences is the more I got out of my comfort zone, the more that I learned, the more that I grew in big ways. Reading is good. Listening to podcasts is good. All that should be done. I still do. I'm an avid podcast. Actually, I use YouTube. Avid learner from all of that. But I got to tell you, the doing, the experience, nothing beats it. No amount of listening or podcasts is related to, compared to me actually going out and doing, in this case, the weekend experience. Hormozy said, you truly aren't learning unless you implement, unless you change a behavior. And I sort of agree. Not to get all caught up in the definition of learning, but I read a couple of decades ago all the Rich Dad, Poor Dad books. I agreed with the concepts. And but I never went out and bought any real estate. So did I truly learn? Now, financially, I ended up doing okay, the slow route. But what if I would have purchased some real estate, used some leverage? I think I'd be even further along than where I am. My point is, true learning is about implementing. It's about taking action. And the more we implement and take action, the more we're able to learn. I've spent a whole lot of time behind books, perhaps even hiding when I could have been out there doing, meeting people, networking. By the way, if you're new to this channel, thanks for tuning in. My name is Jody. I'm the founder of Thumos Coaching. And what I'm not is some mega millionaire with tons of cars and watches. Not even sure that interests me too much anymore. But what I am is a man that's had some success in life. I'm 52 years of age. I'm a husband. I'm a dad of 3. I'm a Christ follower. And I'm a man that broke out of the corporate cage to chase his passion and purpose, which is to help other men. And I'm pretty decent at that. So in our community, we do weekends. We're about to do weekend number 11. They're breakthrough weekend experiences. I've learned from other men. I'm able to stand on their shoulders. And our weekends, they're powerful. They change lives. The wives even notice it when the men come back home, as do the kids. We've got a mighty network community where we share in private as opposed to something like Facebook. And then we come together via Zoom call. So we got men in multiple states here in the U.S. And I'm open to reaching beyond the U.S. as well. But that's the through most community who I am. So my friends, what I would offer you is, let's never stop learning. What I realize is, if left unchecked as a man ages, so here I am in my 50s, I can see how men can just become angry, cranky, bitter, get off my lawn type of thing. I can see how that can happen. And I don't want to say never for me, but I don't see that happening. I was bitten by the learning bug decades ago. Like, I'm passionate about learning. I never want to stop. I never plan to. Whether that's reading, whether that's listening, a lot of audios, leaning in, a coaching group, a mentoring group, I never plan to stop. I think as long as we're open and curious to learning, we're going to grow. I think we're going to grow one way or another. A lot of growth happens through suffering. I just prefer to choose growth. I think less suffering is needed when we're open and we're curious, and we basically choose that we're going to grow. So that's what I would offer you. Wherever you are in life, my friend, never stop learning. By the way, some of my biggest learning and growth has come through pain and suffering. My lows in life. If you're a man that's out there and you're going through a valley, I'm going to remind you, it will get better. As long as you're taking the right action, given enough time, it will get better. There are ways to speed that process up, like leaning in with the right group. If you don't have a like-minded group of men, get you some. Men that can pour into you, feed you protein, give you tactics, tools, connection, wisdom. And sometimes these men don't have to have all the answers. Sometimes just listening, a man holding space, or a woman holding space for you, sometimes that is the medicine that you need. Sometimes you talking to someone else, you'll get the answer yourself. But the bottom line is, keep going, brother, because if you're in a valley, there's probably a mountain just on the other side of that. In fact, in my life, the lower the valleys, the deeper, the higher the mountain on the other side. The darker the dark, the brighter the bright on the other side of it all. So that's what I would offer you, my friends. Continue to be a lifelong learner. Never stop. Take care.